Houston, Texas, the Bayou City, Space City, Clutch City, the H. No matter what you call Houston, as long as you call it home, then you know that down here, we're all about culture. From legendary barbecue, historic rodeos, and a unique slab culture that has completely changed the game. Never underestimate the heart of a Houstonian, because when our backs are against the wall, you better believe that we're going to come through in the clutch. Speaking of clutch, our sports teams know a little something about that too. It's a great time to be a sports fan in the city of Houston. The Astros have been the most dominant team in baseball going on a decade, and the Houston Texans have found their quarterback of the future. Hell, even the Dynamo are trying to add a few more trophies to the case. And the new-look Rockets finally have the leadership they've been desperately seeking. With a combination of rising young stars and seasoned vets, they are looking to establish themselves as a force to be reckoned with. What more could the city ask for? How about a podcast from someone who lives and breathes with every snap, every pitch, and every tip-off at center court, just like you do. Someone who's been repping H-Town 10 toes down since he was prone on the floor and will be until they put him in the dirt. Someone who's watched the Houston Legends put our city on the map and is ready to witness a new era of greatness. The national media ain't putting in work to cover our teams the way that you deserve. Nick Stevenson may not be the voice that Houston asked for, but he's definitely the voice that we need. So what it do, H-Town? Are you ready to hold it down for the greatest city in the world? Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, coming soon.
All right, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Chopping It Up with PScott. I'm Prescott Kelly. Today is Sunday, January 7th. It is Week 18 in the NFL. That was the intro from my dude, Nick Stevenson. Man, I'm so glad to have you back in the podcast game. Houston sports fans, y'all need to check this dude out, even if you're not a Houston fan. This guy knows what he's doing. I miss you guys so much. Nick Stevenson, happy playoff bound day to you, my friend. How are you feeling after last
Thank you,
night?
sir. What it do? Man, thank you for that amazing introduction. What's crazy is that's my trailer and it gets me hype. So I appreciate it, man. But
I
no,
watched it like 6 different times, and each time I'm like, it gives me goosebumps, bro.
it's a good day in Houston, man. It's crazy, bro. Like, I appreciate you joining us yesterday for the pregame show, and then I did an off-scripted post-game show. If you'd have told me at the beginning of this season that the Texans would be in the playoffs and possibly still have a chance to win the division, I'd have told you were nuts, man. So it's been a while since I was watching Week 18 football and actually cared about anything other than, are we going to get the first pick in the draft? Man, it's crazy, man. But I what a great day to talk about football, man. There's a bunch of good games going on today. I know your Bills are playing the primetime game. So
Yep.
what it does, man, it makes me envious. You know, I've been off for a week now, and for the whole week I've been off, well, almost a week. I've just been burying myself in the podcast and in, Houston sports. And dude, it just makes me envious of people who get to do this for a living, man. Like, I got to go back to work in a few days, and I'm like, man, like.
Dude, I know exactly what you mean. Like, back when I was at my old job, I used to work 11-hour days, so I had 3 days off. And during the summer, when my kid wasn't going to school, I could put out content every 3 days, and then I'd go back to this, and I'm like, man, I was in a groove, and now I know exactly what you mean.
We're not too old though, man. There's still time. You're doing your thing. I'm trying to do my thing. So, but just to talk about sports, man, like, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, man. It's just a great escape. So I love the opportunity to do this. I promise you I'll be better than the last time you had me on. You might even actually get to share this with somebody. But I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always fun. I'm fully branded too. I hope you don't mind. A little product placement over here.
I wouldn't expect it any other way. So I'm actually glad that you
right. Hey, hold on. I got one more for you.
Oh, you got the mug too?
It smells like middle-aged spirit mug. Shout out. No, man, but thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, you're one of my favorite people in the planet who I've never got to meet like face to face. So it's always a pleasure to have you on as well. Because you and
we'll have to change that too, man. Either you're coming here or I'm coming there. We figure it out.
It's going to be easier if I go down there, and I don't think you want to be here, especially right now. But
yeah, probably not.
Regardless, so Houston, like we were talking, man, Houston was on this trajectory to be what we see, like if you have like a top 5 pick, there's a reason why you have a top 5 pick,
Mhm.
you know? And all right, so I want your real organic opinion in the moment. When you guys took CJ Stroud, was like, were you going, damn, I wish they would have taken like the Panthers, I wish they would have taken CJ so we could have Bryce? Or were you stoked to get CJ and then Will Anderson on the back-to-back? Because a lot of people thought that was a reach too. And
Right. So I'm actually on the record with this, so I can't be accused of being a prisoner of the moment. Before the draft happened, before I even knew where the Texans were drafting, they were on trajectory to have the first round pick or the first pick of the draft. But it was always CJ or Bryce, CJ or Bryce. From the jump, I wanted CJ. And I said this last night, I don't watch a ton of college football, but I watch enough college football that I knew he was that dude. And I think people, the Patrick Mahomes, the Lamar Jacksons, even Deshaun Watson, it's funny. This is why one of the reasons in mainstream media, there's always narratives, and you talk about that a lot. It used to be if you want a winning quarterback, he has to be able to play in the pocket. You can't have a dual threat quarterback. You're not going to win with a dual threat quarterback until dual threat quarterbacks started winning. And then the whole narrative changed. And so the reason CJ got so much flack is because he's a pocket quarterback. He can scramble a little bit. Like, he's athletic. He can move. But it's the first time, and this is why I hate the talking heads, man. It's the first time I heard anybody say, oh, this guy is good in the pocket. He's a pocket quarterback. And that was considered a negative thing. I liked his size over Bryce Young.
isn't that wild?
It's crazy, right? Like,
Anything to
we went from you have to be in the pocket, you need a Dan Marino, you need a Tom Brady, to all of a sudden that narrative changes because there's some other quarterbacks that have had some success, Cam Newton being one of them as well. Mike Vick, obviously, the GOAT of dual threat quarterbacks. But for me, I was like, are you accurate? That's what you got to be in the NFL, because in the NFL, your windows are smaller, and CJ Stroud is proven to be everything I thought he was going to be. But yes, I was praying that the Panthers would not take CJ Stroud, because that's who I wanted the whole time. And we got him. And the proof's in the pudding,
Well, and the thing for me, I always talk about this, is I don't want to be overreactionary, because rookie seasons, we sometimes get good ones and then they fall off because now there's tape. But it's also a full year of this from CJ. Like, minus the games that he's missed.
Mm-hmm.
He's had one bad start the entire year. But like, it's so weird because Carolina was so set on getting what they considered the better athlete when you have nothing around them. That's why when I talk about, instead of like say I watch every game, because I don't. I'm not one of those fans who says I watch every game. I don't have time. And if you say that you do, you're just a flat out liar. You're a liar. I watch the tape on everybody. Guess what? No, you don't. But when I see teams that are so desperate to move up to get the quarterback because they have to find the right fit, if everything else around you is trash, your legacy automatically starts off as you are trash. I don't think that Bryce Young is as bad as what the NFL is making him look like, but there's not anywhere close to anything around him for him to succeed right now. But you could also make the same argument that Houston was kind of in the same boat, because nobody really knew who a Tank Dell or Nico Collins was. The only person you can name on that team was Laramie Tunsil, essentially, or Derek Stingley, because high draft pick. But those are like two dudes that you knew by name, and next thing you know, they're in the playoffs. And I made this argument when DeMeco Ryans first got hired. It was automatically he's going to be a great coach, and I said, look, we just need to pump the brakes a bit, because we don't know, because we've seen too many coordinators fail from great head coaches, like from the trees and from college. We just got to give it time. This seems like it's sustainable to me, because I feel like they've drafted really well and they've coached up the dudes and gotten more out of them than they thought they would.
Yeah. I'll push back on that a little bit, though, because I remember early in the season, that was the narrative. Bryce Young doesn't have anything around him. But you said it yourself. Who knew who Nico Collins was before he started catching balls from CJ Stroud?
I didn't mad him because I traded for him.
Okay.
It was me. But
hardcore, maybe gambling addicts, hardcore NFL fans, fantasy football people, they may have known of him. Or if you're a Michigan fan, Shout out to Michigan during the college football championship. But other than that, man, like Nico Collins to us was always like that guy who he's been on the team for a few years and looks really good in the preseason, and then it's just all right and during the season. But the difference it makes when you have that dude, I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing that if Bryce Young was on the Texans and CJ Stroud was on the Panthers, that they would have the exact same results. I just don't believe it.
No, I think that they would be flip-flopped. I think that you would still look, because the AFC South going into this season, I, like most people, thought that would be one of the weaker divisions in football. Yeah. And it ended up not being. It wasn't terrible, but the NFC South ended up being bad. If you flip those two, Bryce Young is not in the playoff conversation with Houston, but I still think now, and this is obviously hindsight being 2020, but if you put CJ in the NFC South, they should run away with that division based on the other three that have been just doo-doo butter.
Did you get a chance to watch the entire game last night?
No, I was working, but we were fairly slow. So I got to catch most of the first quarter and part of the second, and then the very tail end when I got home.
I'm going to tell you, the Texans' last touchdown drive, this is after, because the Colts had tied the game at 14. The Texans got a field goal. And then the Colts had a chance to make a field goal, and they missed it. So it was 17 to
14 at halftime or something.
14 at this point. So the last scoring drive, where they score the touchdown, but Kaimi Fairbairn misses the extra point. CJ Stroud was 7 for 7 on that drive, and he threw with a dude right in his face an absolute dart to Nico Collins, and then Nico Collins ended up getting a horse collar, so it moved him up a little bit closer. Man, CJ's made that throw a bunch of times. He threw a very similar to Tank Dell for a touchdown, which is a dude right in his face, off balance, off of 1 foot, doing absolute dart. There's like 3 guys in the league who make that pass, and Bryce Young ain't one of them, bro. Like, that's just until he proves me otherwise, man. And I'm not saying he's going to be a bad quarterback. I think he did get dealt a raw hand, but I think that Carolina would have been better if they drafted CJ Stroud, and I think the Texans would have been worse if they had gotten Bryce Young. That's just my opinion. Because early in the season, the offensive line for the Texans was a carousel, and their wide receivers were in and out. Noah Brown was hurt a lot. Robert Woods was in and out. Nico Collins even missed a game. Obviously, Tank Dell injured for the season. So those guys are good receivers. Don't get me wrong. But CJ made everybody on that team better. Even the offensive line, like, he was able to work with a makeshift offensive line. And that was the biggest knock against Carolina's offensive line, is they're not protecting Bryce. Well, they weren't protecting CJ very well early either. Matter of fact, I talked about the first game against the Colts. He got sacked 6 times. I think he only got sacked twice yesterday. So
that's one of those weird ones where it's just like any other play. Like, there's so much, because in football, there's so much that goes on and so much to being a successful play. And you largely have 2.5 to 3 seconds to execute it. And sometimes you get about 6.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
CJ was holding on to the ball a lot the first few games of the season. That's what impressed me so much about him, man, is anytime he made a mistake, he didn't make it again. And every week you could just see him getting better and better and better. And maybe I'm a homer, maybe I'm biased, bro, but he's that dude to me. And I'm glad he's on our team. That's all I know. So
I'll say, like, as of right now, it's hard to argue that he's not that dude. Yeah. Like you said, like, you're not trying to be homer guy or prisoner of the moment. I try not to be that guy either. But what we're looking at right now in a vacuum, they obviously made the right choice. I'm not sure where they would have gone anyways. Quarterback was a spot of need. But I'll ask one question, because I have other things to tackle real quick though. But let's just say hypothetically that Carolina would have taken CJ. Do you think Houston would have taken Bryce Young, or do you think they would have moved that pick? And without knowing what you know now in the season that he had, but if, let's just say hypothetically,
That's a
CJ
good
was off the
question.
board, do you think that they would have moved that pick, or do you, like, just in your heart of hearts, where they still would have drafted a quarterback because they know that that was the most important position and a position of need? They just would take a Will Anderson at 2?
Obviously, I don't work in the building, so yeah, we're trying to because that's the kind of the caveat here. Do they draft Bryce and still make that aggressive move to go get Will Anderson also? Probably. I think yeah. I mean, that was the general consensus is that those were the two best quarterbacks, and that was a position of need.
And I guess when you think about it, yeah, they traded up to get Will Anderson after they made that pick. So that's
Maybe
fair. It seemed like
maybe
that
they move back and get Anthony Richardson and Will Anderson. I don't know.
they could. Well, that's just it. They could have taken Anderson or Richardson at 2 at
That's
that point
true.
in time if they really wanted to. But so before we move on to, like, because I want to talk about the Houston playoff positioning after that. But since we're in this vacuum right now as far as quarterback play and what is, I know that we didn't talk about this off script. So the Chicago Bears, do you think they're dealing Justin Fields, or do you think they're going to keep him? I would personally keep him from a play perspective and then help the offensive line, or get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, man, because he flashed like he looked so bad at the beginning of the year.
But he always seems to look bad at the beginning. But Sam Darnold did the exact same stuff, and the Jets held on to him 3 years longer than they should, because he would go like 3-2 and only have like a 3-1 TD interception ratio the last 5 games when it didn't matter when we were already eliminated. But the only reason why I say maybe you get rid of him is because you're going to have to pay Justin Fields some type of starting quarterback money, if not next year, the year afterwards. This at least resets the financial clock. But at some point in time, if you like, you have to understand, like, the way that I've looked at this from Chicago's perspective is, if you think that he's the dude, you don't trade him at all. If you are unsure at all, then go ahead and move it, reset the financial clock, and get other dudes.
Yeah, man. It's just, you know how it is, man, with the quarterbacks. Like I think the Bears are so scared to just make the wrong decision, because like if they let this dude go and he goes somewhere else and balls out and becomes a Pro Bowl player, then it's just more egg on their face, man. And Chicago fans, dude, I have a buddy of mine. He's from Chicago. Shout out to Sean Salmon. He loves the Bears. He wants them to bring Lovie Smith back. He's so desperate. He's like, that's the last time we won anything. And I was like, look, man, hey, I can't hear you right now.
Oh, you're good. No, I muted myself for a second.
Okay. Yeah, he wants Lovie Smith back. That's how desperate they are. So if they let Justin Fields go and this dude becomes a baller, like, how do you come back from that? They've already lost so many opportunities. I mean, they could have had Deshaun Watson. They draft Mitch Trubisky instead. They could have had Patrick Mahomes. They draft Mitch Trubisky instead. Like, they're so scared to make the wrong move, I think. And
I get Chicago. The thing about that situation, I'm glad you brought that up, because I personally don't hold that over Chicago as much as other people do. Because when you look at that particular draft, the Chiefs traded up. They were number 27. They traded with Buffalo because Buffalo ended up drafting Tre'Davious White in that deal. But Patrick Mahomes went number 10. There was 9 other, or technically 7 other teams, because it was 1 and 2. They had to trade up to get him. That the biggest thing is trading up to get Trubisky. But passing on Mahomes, I don't give them that much hatred, just because there was 7 other teams, and other teams were like Cincinnati at the time. This is before Burrow, so it was like Cincinnati and the Raiders. Chicago was in that, or not Chicago. Tampa was in that mix. So that one alone, I don't bash them too hard. But trading up to get Trubisky is the major.
That was a weird draft, because I think if you redraft that, obviously Mahomes goes 1 and probably Deshaun goes 2. I'm trying to remember what non-quarterbacks were in that draft, but I'm pretty sure if you redraft it, that's how it goes. And I don't know how Deshaun just came off of winning national championship. Mahomes threw for like 5 billion yards at Texas Tech, and
just against Oklahoma. Just that duel off with Baker Mayfield, he threw for 5 billion yards in that game alone.
Yeah. So and I mean, from everything I heard, the Texans actually wanted him over Deshaun Watson, but then the Chiefs jumped up and took him. So that was just weird, man. I just think Chicago, they're so scared to make the wrong decision that they're probably going to make the wrong decision. So
yeah, once you start thinking yourself, like it's almost like when you play not to lose,
yeah,
you lose, and that feels like what Chicago's doing. And what's wild is like that division was winnable. I still think it is because Green Bay is
are
just
they still on the bubble, or are they mathematically eliminated? I was just looking at that this morning.
Chicago is they're mathematically eliminated right now. The only other, because Detroit has won that division. Green Bay is still in the mix.
That's right. I was looking at the on the bubble team. They need help from other teams though. Like they obviously they need to win today also, but they're still going to need help even if they win. So
if I remember correctly, Minnesota and Green Bay are still technically in the hunt, but Chicago's been eliminated.
And Seattle. That's one of my picks that we're going to talk about.
Yes. Seattle and Green Bay are still in the hunt. So as far as, do you guys know who your matchup is? Because there was some clarity
on the Jags. It's going to depend on the Jags game.
So do you know who you guys would either have?
If the Jags lose, we're against the Browns at home. If the Jags win, I think we're on the road in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Which the Texans have been on the road in Kansas City before, if anyone remembers. What was it, 24-3? 20, I can't even remember. I've tried to erase it from my memory. But yeah, and then that was the last. Oh, we beat Buffalo. Sorry about that. But yeah, that was to go to the AFC Championship. That was to go to the AFC Championship, and the Texans scored like 3 touchdowns in a hurry, and all of a sudden they were up. I think 21-0. I think it is 24-3 at some point. But yeah, and then
are you talking about in like 1992?
No, this was Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes. This was 20.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were, because when you made the stab at the Bills, I thought you were talking about that game. I was like, what are you talking about?
No. Yeah. Gotcha. Oh, we beat the Bills in 2019, but the year before that is when I believe we had a chance to go to the AFC Championship game, and we were up by 3 scores in Kansas City, and then they ended up mollywhopping us. So we owe them one.
Honestly, the Golden State Warriors of football.
Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are the Warriors to the Texans Rockets. Like, at least during
that hurts.
Yeah, at least during the Deshaun Watson era. But I told somebody last night, they're like, "What do you think about the Texans going on the road in inclement weather?" Which Kansas City or Cleveland's probably going to be bad weather. Well, if we play Cleveland, it's going to be at home.
It might be MERP.
Yeah, Kansas City, we'll see. I said if number 7's under center, then I'll take my chances, man. I mean, we're already playing with house money, bro. We weren't even.
That's a stout statement. If number 7, we don't do that for everybody. We do that for number 15.
Yeah,
Mahomes. We do it with number 17 with Allen.
Yeah,
we don't. You're just throwing number 7 out the gate.
CJ's number 7, bro. CJ's number 7. He actually wears that because his favorite player was Mike Vick growing up. So shout out.
And their games they're so polar opposites. He's not the super athlete, and he's accurate, and he can read a defense. It's kind of wild.
I think he's a little more athletic than he lets on, though. I wish he would stop diving. I wish he would stop diving head first when he runs. Like, slide, bro. Stop diving.
I'm totally with you on every other play. Like, that's the thing. He's also smart in that regard, where he picks and chooses when he wants to run and when he wants to put himself up.
Yeah,
the playoffs are on the line. And because I know what you're talking about, it was like that 3rd and 3, and he dove head first and just got crushed by the Colts safety.
If he slid, he probably would not have gotten the first down. So I understood what he was doing on that play, but still, it's kind of scary.
No, it totally is. I 100% agree with you. Now, I'm also interested because, like, when it comes to week 18, we also saw teams like the Ravens basically just suited up the University of Maryland against Pittsburgh and still lost.
That's why week 18 games, when you ask me to do picks, I'm like, week 18 is so weird, bro.
Week 1 and week 18 you shouldn't do, but I had to do it because that's what sports was all about. But what I'm interested to see is, like, there's so many, when you're locked into a certain seed, like the Browns are locked into the 5, the Ravens were locked into the 1. There's certain seeds that once you know that you're locked in, you only have so many matchups. So week 18 is like a second bye for some of these teams, where you're only like, you're going to lose week 18, or you're not worried if you do. So you're already game planning for like 2 or 3 teams, and then the next week comes and you narrow it down. That's why I think that these teams, even if you're the 5 seed like Cleveland, having essentially 2 weeks to prepare for 3 teams, then 1 week to prepare for 1.
Yeah.
Cleveland, to me, is I wouldn't want to face Cleveland right now.
I don't either, and we probably are going to have to because I don't.
I don't want to face y'all either.
Am I getting ahead of myself? I did do okay. One of my picks is the Jags Titans, so I'll wait till we get to that. But yeah, Cleveland's defense is legit. Now we didn't have CJ. We didn't have CJ when we played them. We were throwing out Case Keenum and Davis Mills, but their defense is legit, man.
Never going away.
Flacco still got a cannon, dude. Like, I don't know, man. Like I said, for me as a Houston fan, I feel like we're playing with house money, but also like if we're here, we might as well win it. Let's handle it, man. We'll see. I'm just glad to be talking about not the draft. That's all. Like, that's what I'm used to talking about right now is the draft.
A few years ago when the Bills had finally broken that 17-year streak of not making it to the playoffs, and the reason why they got in was because of Andy Dalton. Like that was the first time in almost 2 decades where I wasn't looking forward to the draft finally. And then 2020, it was the same thing because the Bills had already locked up the division, or that was 2021. They'd already locked up the division. I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself for damn near a month. I'm not used. My body is not calibrated for sports in December.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's it's a weird feeling, man, but it's a good one. Haven't felt it in a while. I am kind of looking forward to the draft though, because I just want to see what D'Amico and Nick Caserio and these guys, like they've had 2 really good drafts already. So I'm curious to see what they can do.
Yeah, between Stingley and then Stroud and Anderson, and then bringing in guys like former Buffalo Bills who are true pros like Singletary. Man, like I feel like they've done a great job of putting that roster together. But we've got the biggest matchup of the day coming up.
Yeah, buddy.
Bills Dolphins. I want to get your perspective on this before I start, just go ahead and downgrading my Bills. And
I'm going to pick the Bills for you. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm picking them for you since you won't.
Look, my reverse psychology worked for the Texans, right? I said
It did. That's true.
The thing that people don't understand is that I've been doing this the last 5 years with the Bills, and they have not caught on to the secret sauce. The recipe of the Bills being at least relevant is because I picked them to lose. And I don't pick them to lose. I tell everybody the reasons why they could lose in each matchup.
Mm-hmm.
If those things happen, the Bills lose. I'm just saying, I want them to win. I look like a bad Bills fan.
Dolphins have no shot at the 1 seed, right?
What was that?
The Dolphins have no shot at the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken. The Ravens have that locked up.
The Ravens had the Ravens had the 1 seed locked up. That's why they suited up a college team. Yeah. But they could get the 2 seed. And that's the thing. Buffalo could get the 2 seed by beating Miami today, or they could be out of the playoffs depending on the Jacksonville.
Everything else that happens, right? But the Dolphins are in no matter what, if I'm not mistaken, and they have a ton of injuries. A lot of guys on their roster are listed as questionable, which they'll probably play, I'm assuming. I'm picking the Bills to win. They're favored by what?
I think they're favored by
3.5. 3.5, something like that.
What's 3?
Yeah, and I think in week 18, I don't know. I think they're going to win. That's just guys. Don't go to Vegas on anything that I say for sure. Don't get on 365 based on anything that I say. I just got a feeling that the Bills have a little bit more to play for, and
but see, that's what concerns me.
That's what concerns you.
It does, because the thing that people never listen to me about when it comes to my criticism of Josh Allen is that they only hear the bad stuff. They only read the snapshot of what the negative is, but they never want to take it into context.
Right.
You remember this game well because the Bills played the Texans 4 years ago in the playoffs, right? Or 5 years ago?
Yeah, but that was a different Josh Allen, dude.
No, but that's the thing. It's not a different Josh Allen. The thing that changed is they didn't have Stephon Diggs then. So he was trying to play too much hero ball, but that hasn't changed. The thing is, like, he is a touchdown monster. He's a touchdown machine. I understand who he is.
Mhm.
When he's great and doesn't turn the ball over, Buffalo can beat anybody. I would even put them up against San Francisco. When he plays perfect football,
Mhm.
they can beat literally anybody.
Yeah.
When he plays not perfect, they lose to the Jets and the Patriots. They barely beat the Chargers and they barely beat the Patriots again. That's the kind of Josh Allen that you see when he doesn't play flawless, which I don't trust him to do. That is why I don't feel great about this particular game against Miami, because they are injured. Miami doesn't have Bradley Chubb. He's done. They don't have Xavier Howard. They don't have Jalen Phillips. They're missing some real key guys.
Yeah.
Buffalo is also missing Tre'Davious White, but Rasul Douglas has been awesome since they traded for him. But Micah Hyde's still banged up, and they haven't gotten any production from a wide receiver not named Stephon Diggs. And they're starting to use the run game more. And the reason why they might win is because they can take the pressure off of Josh. But I don't think that Josh has it in him on a game on the line to not have a turnover in the fourth quarter, whether it be fumble or interception. I don't trust him. His stats this is the thing. His stats are going to look just absolutely bananas today. I bet you he throws for over 300 yards, has at least 3 total touchdowns, but he's going to probably have 2 turnovers, and one of them is going to be costly. That's the movie that I've seen the last 1,700 days, Nick.
Yeah.
That's the movie I've seen.
I understand, man. You're an abused Bills fan. I get it.
There's no other word you can use.
As a Texans fan, the Astros, when they were started,
you don't have to say both of them. Just say Bills fans, because then you know it's an abusive relationship, dog. Like, you don't have to say abusive.
I get it, man. I get it. But here's my thing. When I listen to what you're saying, I agree with you 100%. Josh Allen has to be flawless. But that means the problem's not Josh Allen. The problem is what's around him.
No.
Because teams have to be able to win even when their quarterback is not flawless. I'm sorry, but the Texans got like 2 or 3 wins when CJ Stroud did not play great. He was good. He didn't turn the ball over, but he wasn't great. Like
that's another part of my point of when people talk about how good the Bills are. And I'm like, they've got some big names because Von Miller was a big name, but this season in particular, he's been ghosted. And they talk about whether offensive line's good. No, Josh Allen masks a lot of the deficiencies, but then he makes mistakes when he gets outside the pocket. Or they're like, well, their defense is good. Well, have you looked at some of the teams that they played? There are levels to it where the people who don't actually watch Buffalo play, I'm like, yo, they're not quite as good as you think. But them finally utilizing the run game and James Cook that's the only thing right now that has given me a little bit more hope for today. Because in years past, I would say it wouldn't matter what running back you had back there, they wouldn't use him.
Yeah. Well, your reverse psychology worked for the Texans. My positivity worked for the Texans. So perhaps we will have the same result tonight versus Bills versus.
All I know is that the Bills are going to lose 742-18. Gridiron gods.
Oh man, I feel your pain though, man. Like, it's been a rough few years for the Texans, so it's easy to feel defeated. I like your reverse psychology thing. I like my positivity thing. I think it's going to work out. Bills are going to win.
I like how you call it reverse psychology when it's really just cynicism.
Exactly. It's really what it is. But hey, man, if it works, it works. Like, we'll get. I need that same energy for Jags Titans. It's making me want to vomit in my mouth thinking about.
Dude, that has to be the worst.
Thinking about rooting for the Titans right now, but it's like, and I'm pretty sure
if you weren't from Houston, it would be completely different, I would imagine. But because like you're there and know the background of the Texans and Titans, and the uniform thing to me has just been disrespectful.
There's a few teams that it makes me want to vomit anytime I have to even consider rooting for them. The Titans is one, the Lakers, the Yankees, and and the Cowboys. Like,
you're a baseball team?
What's that?
Isn't there a baseball team too? Because as an Astros fan, there's
The
got to be.
Yankees. If I have to root for the Yankees, it makes me want to puke, and I'll never root for the Rangers. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that is
okay.
something different.
The only time I would root for the Rangers is if they were playing Hitler, and even then, I would be like,
I hope it's high.
I'd have to think about it first,
dude. That is some next level sports hatred, dude. I've never been to that level.
If the Rangers were playing Hitler, obviously I want Hitler to lose. I'm not going to root for Hitler, but I would have to think about it really hard first. Like,
that's wild. Like such an extreme. I remember Bomani. Do you listen to Bomani Jones?
Occasionally.
Yeah, he made some kind of funny thing where he was talking about like his dad, because he was born in Houston,
right?
And college football was so big. I feel like there was a certain college that they would be talking about where his dad would say, this team could be fighting the Ku Klux Klan. I would be rooting for a tie. And I'm like, yo, college football just hits different in Texas than in the South. I would never make that comparison.
Yeah,
that
man.
is wild.
That's crazy. But no, I didn't. We could do a whole podcast on why I just like the Rangers that much. But yeah, there's certain teams that when I have to root for them, it just makes me feel gross. But if it's gonna benefit my team, then I have no choice,
Yeah, I like how there was that awkward silence, and for a moment there was just
yeah.
Who's gonna make the first move?
Yeah.
Would you rather segue into Nick's picks versus PScotts picks, or would you rather tackle the Draymond Green reinstated?
Okay, we've been talking football for a little bit. We can do Draymond really quick. And in the midst, what's crazy is in the midst of all the Texans stuff, I completely missed the Rockets beating the Bucks last night, which is a pretty big deal.
I saw that.
The Bucks were actually like fully healthy. They had everybody. And now the Rockets had at one point like a 20-point lead in that game, and the Bucks almost came back. Giannis went off. He had like 48 points. But yeah, like football completely. And you know what's funny is basketball is actually my favorite sport. And it really bugged me that, I mean, I like American football. I love it. It's just so much more popular in this country than anything else. Like just a random Thursday night garbage game will outdraw like an NBA playoff game. And sometimes that drives me nuts. But last night I did the same thing. Like the Rockets are my favorite Houston team, but I was so engulfed in the NFL, I completely forgot they were playing the Bucks. Like I realized it this morning. Like, good thing I recorded the game. So I started watching this morning. But
thank God for technology, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I am an NBA fan, and I do have some opinions about Draymond Green. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I'm kind of same with you, because like I love Bills football, but like football in general, I'll have it on the background. I prefer watching basketball because like I played in high school, and I had scholarship offers, so like lower level things. Like I could watch Knicks Hawks and be completely content because I don't have a favorite team. But if the Bills aren't playing, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't watch NFL if it's not my team, unless
I'm gambling again.
The big games, the Super Bowl. I'll watch Eagles, Cowboys, the rivalry game, stuff like that. But football and baseball, if my team's not involved, like you said, it's usually background noise. But I can sit down and watch any random TNT basketball game and enjoy it. So
that's because their production team is so good. Like that core is the best in sports. Like I don't care what anybody says otherwise. But
for sure.
So when it comes to Draymond, because I've been kind of under a rock when it comes to this. I know that he was suspended indefinitely, and I always hate that word because indefinite means you're definitely suspended. We just don't have a timeline for it. And I saw last night, and we talked a little bit about this off air, is that he's reinstated. And I thought that's only been 12 games. So I thought his suspension was 25. And you and I talked about it after he choked out tall French guy. Like once he choked out Gobert, we're like, well, this is, because that was the first incident. And then the Nurkic thing, like, yo, you got to suspend him for longer than this. But
so what did he get 3 or 5 games for
Gobert? I think it was
5.
I think he got 5. Yeah, I believe you're right. I think it was 3 or 5 for the Gobert choke thing. And then it was indefinite. And then now he's reinstated. But reinstated doesn't mean he can play. It's just like, I feel like now he's able to go back into
Like, he can be around the team.
He can be around the team. He can practice and things like that. But I still don't believe that he can play yet. But
I'm not sure of. I don't know. I'll have to look more into it because honestly, like I said, I've been so engulfed in Houston sports. Like, I actually missed that till we talked about it this morning. But I'll just tell you what I think should have happened. And you kind of gave me like the look emoji after the Gobert thing when I said he needs to be suspended 25 games. Like, this dude literally did a wrestling move on the basketball court.
I love how you said wrestling.
He did a wrestling move on the basketball court and literally, like, I don't think he just had Rudy Gobert in a headlock. Like, he was literally choking this dude out. And to get suspended 5 games for that, it just like,
well, especially given the history. Like, when I look at certain players, like if Drew Holiday did this, I'd be like, look, he was defending his teammate. There was something was going on because he's a stand-up dude. Draymond that's not quite the
but even if
that we,
bro, even if like, just think of the nicest guy that you can think of in the NBA. Even if they did that, I'm saying 10 games minimum. Draymond,
he's going off rate when you do name recognition and word association. Like, Draymond gets labeled as champion because he's been glue guy, and he's a name, he's a figurehead. If you're right, if it was the nicest dude in the league who was like the 7th duo on the bench who did this, he's getting 10 games.
Easily. Hey, real quick, shout out to my man Craig in the chat. He said it's because he plays for Golden State. That's a true Houstonian right there.
Oh, Craig, what are you doing, man? Hey, thanks for staying put with us, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because he plays for Golden State as much as I think Adam Silver has no control over this league, man. The players run this league, and what a far contradiction he has been to David Stern, because David Stern was judge, jury, executioner, and I guarantee you by now Draymond Green under David Stern's NBA would have had a year-long suspension by now for pick any of the things that he's done. Stomping out Sabonis, kicking multiple people in the groin, punching multiple people. Like, by now he'd have been suspended for a year. I mean, right now, I think what was the longest suspension? I know, obviously Ron Artest got like an entire season for the whole Detroit Pistons situation.
Well, OJ Mayo got suspended a full year, if not 2, because of steroids.
Yeah.
He missed a lot of time of his career.
OJ Mayo had a lot of stuff going on, but I agree with that. But also, I mean, OJ Mayo didn't have the status of a Draymond Green, unfortunately. And you know,
coming in, he did. And if he won more, then maybe he would. But like, he came in like he was a bucket getter.
Yeah.
But he was also a knucklehead.
One more thing that bothers me about the Draymond Green conversation is all these old heads like Shaq and all these dudes who played in the early 2000s, 90s, talking about how, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. I'm sorry, I have to agree to disagree. Like, this dude literally choked somebody out. And I know you guys think that being a goon is basketball. Like, whenever Shaquille O'Neal is defending Draymond Green, I have to remind people, like, this is the same dude who slapped the crap out of Greg Ostertag in warm-ups. Or it wasn't even warm-ups. I think it was like a pregame shoot-around. He slapped the crap out of Greg Ostertag because he didn't like some words that he said. And this is a dude who also came like 2 inches from killing Brad Miller. I don't know if you remember that fight. Like, he swung and missed on Brad Miller and literally was 2 inches away from probably killing that dude. Like, I'm sorry. I love competition. I love physical basketball. But there's a line that you cross that if you keep letting these players get away with this, it's going to get worse. And now we have Draymond Green with his indefinite suspension, which I knew meant we're going to suspend you a little bit longer than you were before. I knew it wasn't going to be anything significant, and it turns out it was 12 games. That's ridiculous. I don't know if he has no incentive not to continue. Like, what do you do? Did he go to anger management for a couple weeks, and then they're like, "Oh, he's cured"? Come on now.
Well, that was like the thing with John Moran is like, "Hey, we need you to go and get help," and he went into like he checked in for therapy, and within like 72 hours, he's like, I'm good to go. And they let him back on the court, and it was the same thing. But yeah, it's like you just can't do
Where
that.
do you go to get therapy for flashing guns in the club? Like what?
Yeah, and in the car on Instagram.
What exactly is that diagnosis? That's so stupid.
Well, it's the same thing with Draymond, because there was like an anger management thing that was supposed to be associated with it, and like again,
right.
the 12 game
anger management makes sense though, but like where do you send John Morant? Like,
yeah,
whatever.
But like even the reinstatement doesn't mean that he can play again necessarily, but the thing, like when Craig says because he plays in Golden State, I think that he's doing word association because there's championships there, and like you're allowed the gratis, because like playing in Golden State isn't really the thing that carries the weight. It's the fact that you're.
That's a fair point that you make. I think. I think if Cam Payne chokes somebody out, he probably gets suspended longer.
Yeah,
or some other random, if Bol chokes somebody out, maybe he gets suspended a little bit longer.
Bol is like, so Wembanyama is the Dalsim of the NBA, but Bol is a close second. I know that I'm kind of dating myself with some Street Fighter references, but if you remember Dalsim,
yeah,
like a 40-inch wings or the 40-foot wingspan.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I think the accomplishments that he's had in the league, I believe he's been Defensive Player of the Year at least once, right? So
I think
that might be part of it too. So
the accolades always help, because the thing is, like, the crime is never like, when you look
no one be shocked when this man punches, kicks, chokes, pokes somebody in the eye. It's gonna happen again because he has no incentive not to.
No, and the only thing for me is that I think that he might tone it down now, is because from what I understand, or at least what I believe, was that when either Shaq or Chuck was ready to hang it up, that he would take their spot on the TNT broadcast. So maybe this is the only way that if he turns it down, because he might lose that game. He still has his podcast. He'll still have ways to make money.
You know how many people Charles Barkley threw through windows?
Again, nobody knows that, except for like you and me. But like we know that, but there's no footage of it. And like
there was no internet back then, too.
Yeah, he's been out of the game so long that he's just become this lovable person, and that's something that I had a topic for. but it is when you're so bad for so long, because that's what we do. Like Charles Barkley now gets the pass because he's been so far removed from winning an MVP and going to a finals and going toe to toe against Jordan, that now we don't look at him as a loser. We look at, oh man, you were really good for a long time, and now you're funny and you're open-minded and stuff like that. Or
it's like your grandpa, like,
yeah,
when he starts being super racist or super creepy with women, you're like, he's just old. But like, if it's 20 years, I did it.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone from the loser that can't win, and he's just a stat patter, to now, oh yeah, he was really good at basketball and he's funny on camera and we give him a pass. And you're right. And I think that Draymond's just trying to do the exact same thing.
I never considered Chuck a loser. Chuck was that dude. He was good.
I never thought so either. But that's the whole thing, is that if you don't win the ring, you're considered a loser. And then once you've been removed from the game far enough, fans start to finally understand how good you were.
Oh yeah.
It's the Bills in a nutshell. It's when I was living in it in the early 90s, it was, they're trash, and then you get removed, and then you grow up, and like you're not teenagers, and you are
hungry about them again.
Yeah, even if you lost 4, no one's ever been to 4 in a row, and that's when people start to like recalibrate their brains and the thought process to go, oh yeah, that's a feat that we may never see again.
It's kind of like Tracy McGrady in Houston.
How so?
The last 3 years he was in Houston, everybody here hated him, and now like,
really?
Yes. Because he was always hurt, and that's not his fault.
Oh, I got you.
He kept losing in the playoffs. That was never his fault. Like Tracy McGrady always balled out in the playoffs. But like, and then his last season for the Rockets, they get Ron Artest, Yao Ming's healthy. They had Ron Artest, Shane Battier, Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming, and I believe Luis Scola was on that team. That team was stacked, bro. Media day, Tracy McGrady shows up and he's like, hey, everybody, I need microfracture surgery. The team had no clue. The team had no clue. He's like, hey, what's up, guys? I got to get microfracture surgery. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah,
so when he left, this town hates him. When he shows up to Toyota Center now, you would think he won 5 championships, bro. Like, people love him. They worship the ground he walks on. And it's just hilarious to me. Like, y'all forget. And it's going to be the same with James Harden, man. After James Harden retires and he's away from the game for a little bit, when he comes back, everybody's going to love him. Like, be back in the strip club again.
That's so spot on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's how we are as fans. But I don't know. With the whole Draymond situation, getting back on topic, like, I think he should have been suspended for 25 games the first time. Definitely after a 5-game suspension, once you realize, hey, these little bitty suspensions aren't working, maybe I'm just old school. I'm somebody who, still believes in spanking your kids from now and again. Like, I would have suspended him for the rest of the year. And I bet you he wouldn't do it again after that.
See, and that's the thing. You make a great comparison when you're bringing kids into the situation, because when you make false promises, or it's the same thing. The NFL and NBA both do this. They'll start on the top as far as suspensions go, and then you'll appeal it, and then they'll walk it back. The first suspension is never what you're going to get anyways. It's sometimes when you're parenting. I can't wait. Like, if you do this, I'm going to throw your toy in the trash, or I'm going to do this. And then it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to do that, but you can't use it for so long. Like you said, it's a lot like parenting. And that's kind of what David Stern, like you said, would have just, this is how it is. Draymond Green may not even be in the league anymore. If we were to do this timeline linear, and
David, I think he'd be in the league. And
I'm saying,
he would get kicked out. But if you're not playing, if you're getting suspended and you're not playing and you're not getting the accolades that you've acquired because you've been available, then maybe teams aren't interested in him anymore because this dude's too much of a problem. So I agree with that.
The timeline continuum would also get messed up because David Stern wouldn't have let it get to a point where it would even get to this. But so if we were to put all the numbers, the Warriors win the exact same amount of championships, he's still everything, but we get to this line. This is the line of demarcation. This is where I think that David Stern would be like, you're done. But to your point is, he wouldn't have let it get to this point.
Yeah.
It would have been suspension after one nut kick, then another one, and it would have escalated. By the time that the Gobert situation happened, I am with you. I think that he would have had enough of it, if he even would have get to that point.
He would have said,
you're just done. You're done for the year, and then maybe the behavior would have been corrected.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that Adam Silver should be David Stern. There's got to be somewhere in the middle, though. Like, I feel like Adam Silver has just let this thing completely get out of hand. I mean, what was it? Is it Jackson Hayes of the Detroit Pistons? Like, literally knocked out a dude. Like, when he hit him in the back of the head, you could see him go unconscious, and he fell onto the bench. I can't remember who they were playing. That. Yeah, it was a dust up between Detroit and I can't remember the dude he hit. I want to say Alex Lynn, but I don't think it was Alex Lynn because I don't think that dude's in the league anymore. But what was funny about that is it happened in Detroit, and you can hear the announcer in the background like, "Stay in your seats. No one get out of your seats." Because this kind of had spilled over the players' bench and into the crowd a little bit. And so Detroit was on high alert, bro. He's like, no one get out of your seat.
Detroit still has PTSD from the Mavs, dog. But they're going to try to recreate that in any form or fashion.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Oh, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think he should be suspended longer, but we'll probably be having this conversation again because he has.
I'm sure that we will. Yeah. History repeats itself, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
World. Oh my God, that's funny. So tell you what, do you want to get into Nick's picks versus PScotts picks?
Okay, let's do it. I've kind of already. My bad.
Are you good?
I kind of already spoiled some of them. I kind of already spoiled some of them, but like I said before, nobody go to Vegas on my picks. Okay, games are getting started in just a little bit, right?
Yeah, we got about 20 minutes until the game starts.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah, man, it's your show. And people might actually be able to use your betting information. I'm telling you guys, you need to put a disclaimer at the bottom of the screen.
I do. Well, so I saw something today that there was a dude who bet a $5 parlay for all award winners this year. Mm-hmm. With Lamar Jackson MVP, Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey for Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, CJ Stroud, and there was like two other ones. It was a $5 parlay at the beginning of the year. Remember, like this was like when the Lamar Jackson stuff was going on where nobody wanted him.
Yeah.
It's a $5 like 6 award parlay that could win like $640,000. Every single one of them is now the favorite. And
Wow.
I pray to God that this guy wins. So, but when I'm looking at like wagers,
You know who the defensive rookie of the year?
Jalen Carter is the favorite right now. He's the favorite right now.
Okay. Yeah, he's probably going to win it too. I was just curious because Will Anderson Jr. was kind of in that conversation, but he's been hurt the last couple of weeks. And so,
yeah.
Jalen Carter sounds good to me.
But I wager like that guy wagers. I do like $1, $2, $3 bets and do like 12 team parlays. And like I hit on about 70 to 80% of my bets. I just don't hit on all of them because I'm trying to retire early based on $3, you know?
Over $3, yeah.
It's not a good economic system, but you know, it is what it is.
I guarantee your picks are better than mine. So let's get to it.
So, all right, we'll get into it. So I have the Commanders plus 12.5 against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are one of those teams like they're going to win, or I know they're going to win this game. At least they should. But they're already in the playoffs. The only thing that they have, I believe that they could lose the division is if they lose and Philadelphia wins. I think that that's the only way that they could lose the division. But I still have them. I still have Dallas winning the game. But 12.5 is a large spread. If you get up early, you might start sitting your guys to be healthy for the wild card round. So I got Washington plus 12.5. Next, I have Carolina plus 4 with Tampa Bay. This again, I don't consider. You and I talked about this earlier. Week 1, week 18. They're the goofiest weeks of the schedule, and you always have that division game. And now all week 18 games are division games. And they've been doing that for a while for the last game of the season. But I still have Tampa winning, but I have Carolina plus 4. Jacksonville in Tennessee. Jacksonville with me was a 4.5 point favorite. I have Jacksonville on minus 4.5. I don't know what I'm getting at. Will Levis may play. He may not. From what I understand, he's not going to play. It's going to be Tannehill that starts. Between the noodle arm of him and you know that Derrick Henry is your only offense and you have to win this game to get in, I have Jacksonville minus 4. Seattle minus 2.5. They're in the playoff hunt as well. They are minus 2.5. They're 2.5 point favorites against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are in that weird position with like Washington where they have 4 wins. You don't want to win anyways. You want to be in the best draft position, but you still want to show something. This is why a couple days ago I said the Cardinals are playing chess, not checkers. Yeah. Kyler Murray's balling out. You're winning just enough to get some trade acquisition for him because you're showing something. I think that Seattle wins. They're minus 2.5. And because they also have the playoff position on the line. And the Eagles are minus 4.5 against the Giants. The Giants are poo-poo. I love Tyrod Taylor, but the Eagles cannot afford to lose this game to also lose a division. Minus 4.5. That is let me do the math on that real quick. That's basically plus $2,200. So if you were to put $100 on this, you'd win $2,200 if all those hit. So, Mr. Stevenson, what is your 5 picks?
So, of my 5 games, you actually did 4 of them. No, I'm sorry. You did 3 of them. So
did you have the same outcome as well?
Last time I checked Commanders Cowboys, it was actually a 13.5 point spread. I picked the Cowboys to win.
I locked this in last night around 9:30 my time.
I checked this morning, so I picked the Cowboys to also win, but I think that the Commanders will cover the spread. So I agree with you on that. The Jags Titans, I have the Jags winning by a field goal, so I think that's a 4.5 point spread right now. So
I have 4.5 on mine, yeah.
Yeah, so that's if the Jacksonville wins by a field goal, the Titans will still cover. I have the Bills since you didn't want to do that one. Okay, so
I ain't touching that.
The Bills are actually going to win and cover their spread against the Dolphins because I feel like the Dolphins have a lot of injuries, and yes, it'll help them to win, but even if they lose, they're still in the playoffs. I feel like the Bills need it more, so that's just my opinion.
-3, you said?
I believe so, or it It was either 3, 2.5. It was something. Yeah, I think the Bills will cover. I think like the straight money line, they're like a minus 210. Like it's crazy. Like they're heavily favored to win the game. My dog poo game of the week is Raiders versus Broncos. Neither of those teams have anything to play for.
Your dog poo game of the week.
Yes. They have nothing to play for. They're not making the playoffs. They're both middle of the pack teams, so they're not going to get a good position in the draft. But I just have the Raiders winning at home, and then the cleaning crew hating their life afterward, because there's going to be a lot of probably vomit and other types of disgusting bodily fluids all over that stadium by the end of that game. I mean, I don't know if anybody even goes. Like, I mean, NFL ticket prices, man, are ridiculous, and I can't imagine going to see a game that just doesn't matter at all.
Unless you're the Panthers,
I guess. But I mean,
that's the thing that I made the argument about as well. Is like,
you're in Vegas though, bro. There's so much to do in Vegas. Why do you want to go watch the Raiders play the Broncos? Like, there's so many other things you can do.
Who's even the starting quarterback for Denver in that game? Is it Stidham?
Yeah, whoever that guy is.
I
don't know. They've like found him off the trash heap somewhere. I have no clue. Speaking like, what was crazy is there was a guy on the Texans who caught a pass last night. I had no clue who he was. His name was like, I don't even remember his name. He was number 81. It's like, where did this guy come from? That's how I knew we were injured, because they had dudes that I didn't even know. Like, it was like his first catch of the whole season. I was like,
all I know is I'm bummed that Brevin Jordan hasn't panned out into a better player.
Me too, man.
Maybe more with CJ Stroud now and going into like,
he's built like Antonio Gates. Like, you feel like he should be a really good tight end. I don't know, man.
I think because we'll hang it up after this, but it does, man. It bugs the hell out of me when I see guys who, and Kyle Pitts is kind of the same thing. I know that Kyle Pitts had more hype coming out, but this goes back to our original conversation of you draft high for a reason. And if you're not utilizing correctly, Kyle Pitts should be an absolute stud. And Brevin Jordan like fits the mold of being like a slot, like a Jimmy Graham, like slot wide receiver / tight end kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think with CJ and a real quarterback, man, if they give him another year together, that could be a bonkers combo.
Yeah. I mean, Dalton Schultz has been our guy. He and I kind of called that before the game. Like, he needed to he's like CJ's third down blanket. Him and obviously, Nico Collins. But yeah, man. But yeah, those are my picks. Don't go, like I said, don't go to Vegas, please. The Bills are gonna win, bro. They're gonna do it. And I think you should do a post-game show afterward.
You think so?
I think you should.
It's gonna be like, that's the thing. That's the problem with me living in Alaska, though. Is like, because that game starts at 4:30 my time. It's gonna be 8 o'clock or so, and it's gonna be 11 o'clock or midnight on the East Coast. Ain't nobody watching that.
Yeah, I did a post-game. We started at 10:30.
Yours was jumping.
Yeah, listen. We were starving Houston fans who hadn't won a playoff game in 4 years, so. We were hype. We were pretty hype. But I forget about the time zone thing. But it's early over where you're, man. Do the post game show. Well, I'll tag a bunch of people in it. We'll talk about it.
All right, I might, because I'm gonna be barbecuing. I usually do wings or ribs. So what I'm gonna do is, before the game starts, I'm gonna do some cranberry herb honey or hot honey ribs with some spicy baked beans. Some grilled pineapple.
I mean, you're talking to a fat boy. You making me hungry over here. You can hear my tummy rumbling in the mic.
Gotcha. I'm gonna do like some, what do they call it? Omaha steak it to you. Just like freeze dry.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't have the technology to do that, but Anyway, this has been Nick Stevenson. Man, I always appreciate you coming up here and supporting me the way that you have. You can find Nick Stevenson, who is the president of the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, which is dropping in February. Make sure you like, share, subscribe on all platforms and on YouTube as well. My guy, thank you so much for your time. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Y'all stay up and stay blessed.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Absolutely. Anytime. You as well, my man.